We have seen racism in the streets, where knees are pressed on innocent necks. We have seen racism in the world of politics, with unjust laws and dirty policies. We have seen racism in the sports fraternity. If you don't believe me, ask Mario Balotelli. But what about racism in the global economy? What about injustice and inequality in the chambers of Wall Street? Could it be that there's a proverbial knee on the neck of the black business community? Could it be that the reason there's widespread poverty in black communities all over the world is because black businesses simply cannot breathe? According to inequality.org, African Americans and Latinos make up 31% of the American population. Yet, just 3% of Fortune 500 companies have African American CEOs. African Americans have contributed to the American economy since the commencement of the transatlantic slave trade in 1619. They've helped to build New York, Los Angeles, and almost everything in between. Yet in this era of COVID-19, the unemployment rate in the African American community is almost double the rate in the white community. These stats are no accident. They are the legacy of a system that made it almost impossible for the average African American to participate in the mainstream economy. And what about systematic racism in our own South African economy? Our beloved country is in its 26th year of democracy. Yet in spite of multiple BEE policies, there is minimal transformation in the JSE. Our economy is rife with inequality as the bulk of our GDP remains in the hands of the minority. According to a recent report by Stellenbosch University, the wealthiest 1% of South Africa's population owns 67% of all the country's wealth. The top 10% of South Africa's population owns 93% of the country's wealth. The remaining 90% of South Africa's population owns just 7% of the country's wealth. The World Bank, the IMF, the Mail and Guardian, and Times Magazine have all reported very similar figures, concluding that South Africa has the most unequal economy on earth. Again, these stats are the legacy of an unjust regime that deliberately excluded black people from participating in the mainstream economy. In the words of Malcolm X, when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. What happens next? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. As we remember George Floyd and so many others, as we lift our banners to cry, Black Lives Matter, may we add to that statement, black businesses matter. May we consider that it's hard to bully an empowered community. May we combine our energy towards our collective financial liberty. May we channel our money to change the black story and to write a new history. For black lives will get better when black businesses matter. How do we end the insufficiency of that black single mother whose children go to bed hungry? How do we flatten the curve of suffering and poverty in our township streets? How do we equalize an economy that was built on the foundations of inequality? How do we uproot centuries of oppression and slavery? The answer is as simple as can ever be. When you need a restaurant for dinner, remember that black businesses matter. When you need a new suit for winter or a new dress for summer, remember that black businesses matter. When you need to brand your new company, remember that black businesses matter. When you need a doctor or a lawyer, remember that black businesses matter. When you need to buy or sell a property or a car, remember that black businesses matter. If Africa sells it, buy it from Africa. If Africa makes it, import it from Africa. Before you spend that dollar, remember that black businesses matter. European and Asian economies are flourishing because they circulate their wealth internally before they spend it overseas. Africa, it's your turn. Black America, it's your turn. If just 1 million people who previously spent their money elsewhere can redirect that money to a black-owned enterprise, that is 1 million new clients and billions of dollars worth of revenue for black-owned companies. And those companies can then empower their families and employ their communities. That is collective economic empowerment. That is financial freedom, job creation, and restitution. Together, may we cry, black businesses matter. From January to December, from Ghana to Rwanda, from Asia to America, and in the streets of our beloved South Africa, from Soweto to Inanda, from Tembisa to Khayelitsha, may we daily remember that black businesses matter.